Evening, guys. I'm going to have a little bit of a rant. I'm going to have a little bit of a rant about something that's been really irritating me recently. So, we're going to be talking about the fact that nobody in the whole of Rwanda got to watch Oppenheimer on the big screen. And it looks like it's just about to happen again with Five Nights at Freddy's. So, two films this year that I really wanted to go and see, and I'm not going to get to see them the way that they were intended. Now, to give a little bit of context here, there have never been that many cinemas in Rwanda. The main one used to be a place called Century Cinema in KTC, sorry. In Rwanda, everything is an acronym, and every acronym has at least one K in it. So KH, Kigali Heights, KBC, Kigali Business Centre, and KCT, Kigali City Tower, and UTC, which doesn't have a K in it, Union Trade Centre. But everything's a three-letter acronym or a two-letter acronym, and mostly they have Ks in them. So it gets a little bit confusing. Anyway, KCT, Kigali City Tower, used to have a cinema called Century Cinema, and it was a really nice cinema. It was kind of intimate and cozy. They had really good seats in there, and it very much reminded me of a cinema that I would have gone to as a kid with my family, or a smaller cinema that I might go to in the UK. It was really, really nice. That unfortunately has closed down, I think, and now we've got this huge cinema, a 300-seater cinema out in Ribeiro called Canal Box Olympia. So, sorry, I've got a bit of a clicky chair here. So Canal Box is the main internet provider, fibre optic internet provider in the country. Canal Box is also the company that's taken over the cinema, but I'll get into that in a minute. Because essentially, I flew back to Rwanda on the 21st when Oppenheimer was released, and I was so excited. And Barbie had already come out, so me and my friends, we decided, well, why not? We'll go and watch Barbie whilst we wait for the main event. And don't get me wrong, Barbie was fantastic. It was a great film, but I am not the target audience for Barbie. I did not grow up playing with Barbies, and I love Margot Robbie, but I prefer her with a baseball bat. Just my preference, you know? The kind of movies that I go and watch have a lot less pink in them usually. But even so, it was a great film. I enjoyed it. But we were really just waiting for Oppenheimer. And we waited. And we waited. And we waited. And, people were messaging Olympia saying, hi, when's Oppenheimer coming? And there was just like radio silence. And the dates came and went, and it never appeared. It never materialised. So a lot of people were like really annoyed about that. And there was a lot of speculation going on. So people were like talking about it saying, well, is it the subject matter? Because I know that it's been banned in Japan because it deals with the atomic bomb that was dropped on Japan. So, maybe that was the reason. And we were all talking about it and saying, oh, well, maybe it's because it deals with war and it deals with dark subjects and, maybe because of that. But then the next week, The Nun 2 came out. So you can go and watch a horror movie at Olympia, no problem. It definitely was not the subject matter, let's put it that way. So then there were a few more speculations going on. And then somebody noticed that Canal Box Olympia never shows any movies by Universal Pictures. And so I went off to Google that and I said, Five Nights at Freddy's, who made that? Universal Pictures. And so the trend seems to be true. If it was made by Universal Pictures, it's not coming out in Rwanda. So I got really kind of, I was tweeting Universal Pictures, and not in a flattering way. I was like, Universal Pictures, why aren't you showing any of your movies in Rwanda? What don't you like about Rwanda? I was getting really annoyed about it. And of course, Universal Pictures don't reply to anything, so they didn't. But it kind of did set up that sense of, what is it that Universal Pictures has got against Rwanda? Why would you not allow your movies to be shown here? And somebody said, well, maybe that's because It is quite a small audience here. It's a 300-person seater cinema, and I think I've never seen it more than about half full. But then I don't go very often, so So we kind of thought about that. It's that there isn't enough people going to pay for that. But I remember years ago there was a small independent cinema near my dad's in the UK. And somebody asked him that. He said, how do you afford to show these big films when there are so few people in the cinema? Just because it's a small cinema, you can't physically get more people in there. And he was explaining that actually you pay per person who views the film. So you're not renting the film for a flat high fee, you're paying a portion of your ticket sales. I don't know if that's how it works with every Hollywood distributor. I'm assuming not. I'm assuming that they kind of need to recoup a small amount or a set amount and then a percentage on top. I don't know. If you know about these things and cinema distribution, let me know, because I'd love to learn. But so that was all very odd, because if it isn't about the ticket sales, what is it about? Because from our perspective here, it just seems like Universal are being arseholes at that point, because they're kind of sitting there going, we have the best movies, look at us, we have all the blockbusters of the summer, we have the dog's bollocks of films, our films are the best, but you're not allowed to watch them. And it's like, okay, that's the message that it feels like we're getting. It's great, you have some fantastic films, but you're not going to let us watch it. Why? It's exceedingly difficult to make a case against piracy at that point, when multi-billion-dollar corporations refuse to allow people a legitimate way to watch something. And it just felt really nasty. You know what I mean? It's like the rest of the world gets to see this on the big screen and nobody here does. Why? So, first off, that created a really unpleasant feeling towards Universal Pictures. But then there was a very small part of it where you're kind of looking at Canal Box thinking like, what did you do? Why aren't Universal letting you play any of their films? Because, it's not out of the question that maybe Canal Box played a movie by Universal once and didn't pay all the dues or something. We don't know. There's no evidence for that. Who knows? But there's a little part in your brain going, well, if Universal won't let you have their movies, why is that? Where was the breakdown in trust there? So, of course, then there was some tweeting to Canal Box saying, hey, guys, on their Facebook page, and people were saying, when do we get to see Oppenheimer? And there was just absolutely no response. It was just like, whew, again, radio silence, nothing, which again feeds that sense that maybe it was Canal Box's fault, maybe it was Olympia's fault that we don't get to see this. And again, I don't understand why Olympia wouldn't just settle that matter, because if it isn't their fault, if it is something about Universal, then they lose nothing by saying, hi guys, yeah, sorry, we understand your frustration, but these are the reasons why we can't show Universal Pictures. Why wouldn't you do that? Because it would get public sympathy on your side. If you just stay silent and Universal stays silent, well, it's got to be one of you's fault. Who is it? Which one of you is the problem here? So yeah, I don't know. Anyway, and then I started to think about it a bit more, and I went searching to find out who owns Olympia, because I think there's another film distributor or something. I think they're called AMC. There was a news article a couple of years ago where this massive cinema franchise fell out with Universal, and they basically refused to show any of Universal's films again. So when I stumbled upon that, I thought, okay, is Canal Box Olympia actually owned by this other company, AMC? And is that why we don't get to see anything by Universal? And in my Googling, it turns out that it's not them. It's a French conglomerate. I've written their name down. I'm so sorry. I'm getting older, forgetting things. So it's the Vendy Group. And the Vendy Group is a big French conglomerate. who own Canal Box, the internet company, and also Olympia, the cinema chain, and they've opened Canal Box cinemas in other countries in Africa. So Vivendi, what's the problem here? You know, I mean, it's wonderful, it's lovely, it's fantastic that you have gifted Rwanda a cinema. But if we can't watch any of the films that we want to watch, if we don't get any of the big films that everybody else gets to see, that's kind of like gifting somebody a car and not giving them the keys. You know, yeah, you technically have one, but it doesn't really serve a purpose. You know, I mean, no, don't get me wrong, I'm exaggerating there. There are some fantastic films there, and there are also quite a few films from around the world there. But, you know, when you miss 2 massive blockbusters in a year, films that people are absolutely talking about all over social media, talking about in all the forums, everybody's talking about, reviewing, raving about, criticizing, you know, there's a mass global conversation around those films, and we don't get to be a part of that. There's a problem with that. You know, it's an issue. So yeah, really, I mean, it would just be amazing to know where the problem lies. Is it with Universal Pictures? Is it with the Vivendi group? Is it something about Canal Box not related to either of those? Why don't we get to see it? And if you have a Canal Box Olympia or a Canal Box cinema in your country, did you get to see Oppenheimer or Five Nights at Freddy's or any other Universal film in that cinema? Because that would be really interesting to know. Anyway, I would love to get to the bottom of this. I feel like it's a bit of a sleuthing mystery here. I would love to know what the specific reason is as to why it's not playing. And yeah, just put the matter to bed, really. It would be amazing if somebody could go and sort it out, because I'm sure there are going to be a lot of other films next year that people really want to go and see and should be allowed to go and see. So as it is, tonight I was supposed to be going to see it. There's a local bar that streams films, and they often show the films that you don't get to see in the cinema. So the last one I went to see was Cocaine Bear, and that was so much fun. That was a way better movie than I was expecting it to be. That bit of like flying out the back of the ambulance was just, that's the kind of film I like. It was silly, it was funny, it was a little bit gory, it was fun. I would very much like to have gone to see Oppenheimer tonight, but, you know, me and my friends were just a little bit tired. We're old, you know, we got a little bit tired. So instead we're going to have a viewing party, house party next weekend with popcorn and beer, and view it on a smaller screen. So, yeah. Anyway, if you know what the problem is, let me know. If the same problem happens in your country, let me know, because then we wouldn't feel so alone. Night.